Mr. Lengsfeld, welcome to Kosovo. You are director of Helvetas around the world. Tell us first, what does Helvetas do in Kosovo?
Yeah, first, thank you for having me. So it's really a privilege to be here and to learn also about the activities as they're ongoing and what's the present situation in the country. We work on really two major topics. One is the whole economic integration, the economic development with the focus on what are opportunities for young people, how to start into professional life, what do you need to learn as a skill, not only the technical skill, but also how to project to the labor market. So that is one dimension. Second dimension is really, it's not only about the economy. A society also lives well when the political side functions well. So the whole work about local municipal governance is a topic where we have been supporting for many, many years. As a Swiss organization, we somehow have the experience that democracy is constructed both from above and from below. And so working with the municipalities also to be responsive to citizens' needs, that is something close to our heart.
So we, in our debates, have used something you have set up. Demos and the program set up by Helvetas in Kosovo has been the initiator of performance grants for municipalities. It is a very useful mechanism that lists the municipalities of Kosovo in different fields, how they're doing in health, in infrastructure, in education, and then judging from where the municipality ranks, municipalities are awarded grants and citizens have more money for their own needs. Tell us, has this been only piloted in Kosovo? Is this something you've done elsewhere? How successful has it been now for more than a decade that it's working?
So as you mentioned, Demos, it's a program working with the municipalities, but it's really a partnership between the government of Kosovo and the government of Switzerland, also with financial support of the government of Sweden and of the EU, to work together with the municipalities and support them how they run their internal affairs and how they're producing added value for the citizens. So specifically to your question, as an organization, Helvetas has worked on local governance in many different contexts. So the performance-based grant in this specific form is really a local innovation, but the way how to work on municipal performance and how to make that responsive to citizens' needs, that is something which is a topic of relevance in many, many contexts.
Now, that mechanism that you've set up is being applied by completely local institutions. Are you happy with how it's being implemented?
So I would never say we set it up. It's really the municipalities who said, oh, that's an idea. And in the partnership with the program, it was developed what makes sense in the context of the municipalities of Kosovo.
But then you brought in the donor money, right, in the mechanism?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it's also an idea which has been there's an initial idea, but then it's adapted and tested in 38 and all the municipalities of Kosovo. And an idea, just as itself, never lives very long. It's important that this is also supported. And here is where the donor money is helpful, but it's much more than just the performance-based grant and the financial support. It's also a way of looking at local governance.
You have worked in 3 other fields, apart from municipal development: civil society, business development, women's advancement in business. How has that worked in Kosovo? What are the key results you've seen? And you've come here before. Your last time was 2016. You may have seen the grantees then and today. What has changed with your projects?
So coming in, really what strikes is the dynamism in the country. So the energy which is there to do business, to go on with one's life, with all the challenges that are also in the context. And this is not the situation specific to Kosovo. We are all looking what's happening in the world. So this is a big picture. But then there's always the question, what does that mean for my life? And to see here that everyone wants to say, I want to move ahead, this is great. Now, specifically to your question, as an organization, we say a society evolves when all actors play together in a good way, when they play each one their role. So this is the government at the central level, but also at the municipal level, the private sector, and civil society. So it's not the civil society can advance alone or the private sector can advance alone or even the government cannot advance alone. So it's the different perspectives that need to cross, and when that is in synergy, then there you have the best results. I can make an example. If like a young person wants to choose a profession. So the first question is, how do you choose? Is that the inspiration from your family, your parents, or is that also from the system? Is there a guidance what you could choose as a profession? So that helps in the choice. Then is there a system which offers that type of training?
So is there a system in Kosovo? Where do you see that system has developed to support business innovative ideas, a young person, to support maybe not having so many people leave my country for your country? And then with your taxpayers, their taxpayers' money, you develop in my country. So where have you seen the changes?
So every country only develops by itself. Like international cooperation is only always a contribution. So changes that we have seen, for instance, in the program I, which is like really around youth employment, enhancing youth employment, also an initiative supported by the Swiss government. And there it's not so much about like what is now the vocational education system in Kosovo and does it work or not, but it's to a large extent also working with the companies and to say when someone is working in a company, what are the skills which would be helpful to progress further, or what could be a next step. So it's also like a bit a new approach, look at career advancement, to say in the workforce where you are working, what can be hybrid training, so that we see that is very dynamic because it goes beyond the initiative of the individual, it's also the interest of the company. And when that comes together, it's also worthwhile to invest.
So where exactly has Helvetas helped in that front, in training and empowering particularly women and young entrepreneurs?
Exactly. So women, young entrepreneurs, that is a very important target group for us. Now, if we take the example of women, it's a bit strange to say, oh, there's a program focusing on the interests of women. Actually, it's not, because like women are not a minority group. It's like half of the population are men, half of the population are women. The question that we have in Kosovo today, the labor market integration, the participation of women in the workforce is relatively low. It's maybe 18%, surely below 20% in the European comparison. This is very, very low. And the question is not, is it low or not, but does this correspond to the dreams of the young women and maybe also of their partners? So enabling opportunities to say, if you want to choose a profession, what are the choices that you have available? And here we see one side is the training offer, but the other side is also, if you're a young family, do you have the childcare infrastructure? Or is it then like you would like to work, but it's impossible to bring your child to a kindergarten or to another care facility? So reflecting on those types of mechanisms that need to be in place to enable choices, that is something which is close to our heart.
We talked about women, young people, municipal governance, but you, Helvetas, is also working on diaspora links with Kosovo in itself. How are you doing in that front? What are your key projects in that field?
So it's not specific projects that we have in that field, but it's just starting from a realization. When you see like people who emigrate by force or by choice, somehow they need to find like a new, they make their place in a new reality. So you need to battle a bit. Nobody waited for them. So that makes that they're really entrepreneurial, they're dynamic. And that is what we see in Switzerland, where almost a quarter of the Kosovar diaspora lives in Europe. So they are very
not only in Europe, out of half of diaspora, out of half of entire diaspora lives in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Almost.
That is your figure. I would have thought 1/4, but maybe.
Yeah.
So what we see is they're very dynamic, and the young people, they really have aspirations. Also, many of them economically, they're doing well. Now, it's not just you emigrate and then you don't care about your home country. Almost everyone keeps close ties, family ties. Somehow these are also the roots, particularly second generation. They say, where am I coming from? My parents, we always visited, but what does that mean? So there's also an interest to better understand what's my home country. And then there comes the question, I learned so much. And I see like during holidays or during visits, oh, this is also a bit, can be my reality. So how can we contribute? Some of those people, diaspora, they have been like successful in business, so they say, okay, how can we reinvest if you're coming back? And that is something where we see that there's an important entrepreneurial dynamic, not only to bring funds, but also to bring competences, experiences. And because there's a good understanding of Kosovo, it's much easier to be successful. Like for Swiss people who are dynamic and entrepreneurial, so why would they choose Kosovo? But if you have the family tie, then of course that enables that special relationship and maybe also different type of acceptance when you're doing business here. So that's a huge potential. And our impression is this is today still underexploited, and it's good to think about ways how can that be further nurtured.
Finally, if you were to choose several success stories in Helvetas' work in Western Balkans, not just in Kosovo, and 3 challenges and non-successful things that you are still battling with, what would those be? Would you share that with us?
So maybe to start with the challenges. It's when you're in like societies in transition, we say we are building up a future, we are reflecting on what are next steps. There's always an element of change. So some are more open to change and say, yes, we want to go forward, and others say, no, it's actually quite good as it is. So there is a societal debate on what's the right way, and that's good. That's the very nature of democracy. And now opening those spaces for a productive discussion, I think that is always a challenge to say, okay, how can we listen to different voices? And that is what I love really about like the municipal level. That is, it's close to the people. It's the citizen engagement. It's where you can see how my country and how my immediate context is run. And there's where people want to engage. Because it feels close if a kindergarten is built with the municipal budget or a bridge. Oh, that's a choice that we can make together. So and maybe that's a success story, bringing people into their own planning processes, participatory planning on content, but also on budget. So where should we put the money? Having an open discussion on that. So that is a huge enabler for citizen engagement, and that people say, this is really also what is realized that belongs also to me. I'm a citizen of this municipality and I like what I see. And so this is creating cohesion, and it's also enabling a sort of other type of accountability. Because then when you have been part of the planning, you also, because it's close, then you see what's happening. And for instance, we have developed a tool together with the municipality, social audits, where the municipality is also sharing what did we do. And then people can say, oh yeah, we like it because that is what we discussed. Or they can also challenge, didn't we discuss something else? And that creates like a different type of transparency, which is the base to progress together.
Finally, you are sitting in front of an installation which presents the Kosovo's biggest sign in decades of economic development. It's our mine. It's the minerals, lead and zinc from our mine coming from 1 kilometer underground, but also is a symbol of the hard work of miners that work in really poor conditions and this darkness from which this economic development has to come from. This material in the end up on our telephone, mobile phones, lead and zinc, car batteries. In many ways, I want to ask you, what is Helvetas' philosophy in developing countries without causing damage to the environment, damage to the people, without people paying cost, labor cost that turns out to be more damaging than the riches. So what is the philosophy of development? And I'm always looking at Swiss to having been able to become such a country that has not had to pay a price in its environment. Your countryside looks like a fairy tale, yet you haven't had to exploit and damage it to become a fairy tale. On the other hand, I'm coming from a country which spends so much money on asphalt, wants to build, it's full of, unfortunately, we are struggling with garbage. We do not yet have sewerage and water capacities. We have so much in common that our people migrate to Switzerland, but in Kosovo, when we talk about Switzerland and Swiss development, is something unimaginable. Many people say here, you can't expect Kosovo to be like Switzerland whenever we talk about anything up to some standard. So how was the recipe, basically? How did you make it as a country? And is that developing philosophy behind Helvetas too?
Let's not start in the past, let's start today. It's an area of climate change, and we all are aware that, environmental pollution is something that can be really difficult. So that awareness, I think that's the starting point where we say, hey, what are ways of doing business which are mindful of the environment and which is also mindful of our children and grandchildren? The way how we act today impacts future generations. So that is where we say, greening the economy, to use like a simple label. That is something very important. So each time to reflect, do we want to construct in concrete or in wood? And just this morning we visited a company who's really working with like wooden frames. It's a cheap way to construct, but it looks fantastic. Seeing that, you say, I want to live there, I want to live in such a house. So they are
in Kosovo?
In Kosovo, yeah.
You, a Swiss man, wants to live in a wooden house in Kosovo.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
just as an idea.
In Switzerland, also many houses that traditionally are built from wood, and it's very nice to live inside. So, I mean, it's not to, there are different ways to have nice constructions, but what is important, always to ask the questions, the way how I'm shaping the environment through construction, or the way how we're doing business, is that mindful of the environment? Now, what I also would want to say, the richness of a country can be contributed through by a mine or like the natural resources, but the true richness are the people. So the way how people are educated, how they integrate in the labor market, I think that is the key question. And while that professional education takes place, and while like the link with the private sector is made, always to be mindful of what does that mean on the sustainability side. And I think that is a recipe to say, okay, we need to take a second look. And because you have been praising Switzerland, from my city, which is Zurich, I know the discussion, do we want to have another parking lot, or do we want to take some asphalt away and green that part? So that is not everyone agrees. It's a political discussion, and that is also, I think, what is the opportunity, the way how we want to shape our societies. In a democracy, that's an open process. And again, at the municipal level, you say, how do I want my communal center to look like? What are the infrastructures we want? Is a park important, or do we want a parking lot? Both are necessary. How do you balance that? So that's the richness when you say, okay, the local government and the economy, they belong together, and how we shape it. It's the vision of the entrepreneurs, but it's also the individual professional choices of the people, and it's our local democracy, how we bind that together, and then have also that discussion at the national level. So all perspective together make for like maybe a sustainable future for a country.
Mr. Lengsfeld, it's been a pleasure to interview you here in Reporting House Museum. You are most welcome back. Thank you for all the work Helvetas has done in Kosovo.
Thank you for having me.